Welcome to the Michelle Rempel-Garner podcast.
Hello, fellow patriots. This week, I made a big announcement with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, and that is that the Conservative Party of Canada wants the temporary foreign worker program abolished immediately. And joining me today to break down this big announcement, what it was, what the response was, and what our strategy is going to be on this and other topics heading back into the House of Commons session, is veteran Conservative strategist and my chief of staff, Sean Schnell. Sean, it was a big week. It was a huge
It
week.
was, but one that is kind of the culmination of a lot,
Yeah.
many months, many years of work, in fact.
Yeah, actually, so, it's so funny. The immigration minister was nowhere this summer, like nowhere, not on the public, not anything. But you, myself, a huge team of staff in Pierre Poilievre's office, literally have been burning the midnight oil, diving deep into immigration policy all summer. And this week we announced one of several reforms that we are going to be calling on for the Liberals to undertake this fall. Do you want to dive right into it? Why don't we play a clip of the announcement that we made, Pierre and I made in the GTA this week?
Conservatives are calling on the Carney government to permanently scrap the temporary foreign worker program and to stop issuing visas for any new temporary foreign workers coming into the country.
Things are so bad that 1 in 5 students are returning to school this week who looked for a job this summer and didn't find one, in large part because they're competing with temporary foreign workers for scarce entry-level jobs.
Let's look at the situation for this generation. It is the first generation that cannot afford a home in Canadian history. And now, the double gut punch. They have the highest, or the worst employment numbers of any group of young people since the late 1990s. Now, the Liberals promised they would cap the temporary foreign worker program at 82,000, but in the first 6 months, they've already handed out 105,000 permits. To put this into perspective, if they do the same number of permits for temporary foreign workers in the next 6 months that they did in the last, they will break the record again with over 200,000 temporary foreign workers coming in to take jobs when our own young people are facing record unemployment.
And that's why we're here today. We're standing up for the people that are behind us. Enough is enough. Canadian jobs have to go to Canadians.
We want Canadian workers to have Canadian jobs. We want to bring back high wages.
It's a big announcement.
It was a big announcement.
So we're going to go through some of the coverage of this, but maybe let's go through some of the details first, because I've seen some people online talking about, a different type of labor, which is legitimately hard to fill, and that is certain types of agricultural work,
Sure, yeah.
agri-food work. So, the temporary foreign worker program, when it was put in place, like well over 40 years ago, I think it's almost 50 years ago now, it was designed specifically for perennial, hard to fill jobs in areas of unnaturally low unemployment. So, for example, let's say grape picking for 2 months in the Okanagan or something like that, right? So what we proposed along with the abolition of the temporary foreign worker program was a separate standalone stream for those jobs that are legitimately hard to fill. But, you know, I saw a bunch of lobby groups come out and say, well, the rest of it, right? Like the low skilled stream, even the high skilled stream, quote unquote. I want to talk about that in a minute. Wow, there's no way that Canadians are going to take these jobs. I don't buy that. I just don't. I don't know about you. You've been talking about youth jobs now all summer. This has been your big push too. What do you make of that feedback?
Yeah, I think the feedback is just misguided, and it's probably pretty easy to see why different individuals or organizations are pushing back the way they are, because they either have political bias or they have some sort of vested interest in keeping things the way that they are. But the reality is when you talk to everyday Canadians, when you are out in real communities, nobody is saying that the immigration system is
Yeah.
working for anybody. And one of the continuous concerns and complaints that comes up has been this program, this recurring issue around the temporary foreign worker program. This isn't new. This is something that has been talked about for a long time, and it extends beyond political stripe. This isn't a specifically conservative party issue. It has been raised by political leaders at multiple levels of government from multiple different parties. And so it's a bit ridiculous to on one hand have pretty much unity across the board saying, yeah, the immigration system, various different aspects of it aren't working. The temporary foreign worker program is a particular point of frustration and concern, but yet then to have them come out on the other hand saying, well, this is a conversation that doesn't need to be had, or this is a too
Yeah,
blunt approach,
nothing to see
et
here.
cetera, et cetera. Yeah, exactly. No problem. This is just conservatives making an issue out of nothing.
Now, so I wanted to start with that because that feedback was in the vast minority of the feedback. The feedback that we got was uniformly positive across political stripe. In fact, like Sean, you and I have been doing this a hot minute. I have never seen coverage on an issue like this. It exceeded my expectations.
Sure. Yeah.
And it really struck a nerve. So a couple of things happened this week to, I think, really saturate it, and I want to show the results in a second. But this week, the youth jobs and overall unemployment numbers came out again, the labor force survey results, and unemployment went up, and it's grim, man. So you've got a screenshot here. The Canadian economy bled 66,000 jobs in August as unemployment rate is at its highest since pandemic days. Unemployment rate rose to 7.1%. So the obvious question here, the no-brainer question is, why would the government be hiring temporary foreign workers when the unemployment rate is that high? There's no answer to that, right?
No, there is no answer to that. And again, this is just an example of there's a major crisis issue. There are big questions about the economy at large, but there is a jobs crisis that we have been talking about. Conservatives have been pushing for a long time now in the youth demographic, and it is a major indicator of a massive problem. And so when we're talking about fixes, because that is the job of legislators and government, not to sit on their hands and say, well, there's a problem, but there's nothing we can do. It's to put forward solutions. And that's exactly
Well, this is low-hanging
and the
fruit.
Conservatives. Yeah, it's super low-hanging
Like
fruit.
this is a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
like we'll go into some of the coverage, but the obvious answer on why we're proposing this is because Canada should be betting on Canadian kids and youth, right? Like there is no, you and I talked about this last week, how we each had, starter jobs, and that trained us and whatnot. I just don't buy that the government should be intervening with a program that suppresses wages. It treats these workers that come in really poorly because they're essentially indentured labor because they're tied to one employer. The program's been rife with abuse, and it takes first opportunity for kids. And you know what? That is common sense, and it resonated with people across the country. So let's pull up some of the coverage here. Let's show the National Post. We had 2 front page headlines within 72 hours. The first here, you can see the entire front page, temporary foreign workers, Tories seek program. And there's us at the announcement in the GTA. And then actually this morning, front page of the National Post again, too many, too fast, multiple stories, John Ivison, Jamie Sarkoniak, Chris Sully, others breaking down why this program is wrong, and it's caught fire. Now, Sean, there is one person that we didn't expect to come out and support this. Do you wanna introduce that?
Yeah, so we've got a screenshot here. And like I said, this has been a conversation that extends beyond one political party or political ideology. And so this week, following the announcement that you and Pierre Poilievre made, Premier from British Columbia put this out. So this is a tweet of his. And then we've got
David
so
Eby,
yeah, so
the
he says our
NDP premier.
system right now is a race to the bottom who hurts our young people and rewards bad actors. And then I've got this headline here which sums it up. Temporary foreign worker program should be reformed significantly or canceled. EB.
So that was, to me, it just says like this program needs to go. You've got NDP and Conservatives agreeing on this. The response that I've gotten from across the country, you've seen it in our inbox too, uniformly positive. Just,
Yeah, and that's
you
the
know,
thing, right? It's been uniformly positive, and for those very few minority detractors that have
they're
some sort of
lobbyists.
thing to say about it. Yeah, like I said, like
They're
there's
lobbyists who
some
benefit from suppressed wages.
yeah,
Sorry.
there's some sort of vested interest in it. But even them, no one, not I have not seen anybody that's come out and said this program is helping the situation. This program is helping the
Nope.
young Canadian jobs crisis in some way or another. So there's no argument really
No,
to
they're
be
basically
had on
saying,
this.
money, please, right? Like on the backs of Canadian workers. And sorry. So like, listen, if you are a lobbyist, I'm not going to name you directly, but you know who you are, and you are going to come into my office and say, "Oh, you can't do this. You guys have to stop." Or because you know what I'm going to say, and you're going to go to one of my staff or one of Pierre's staff and try and say this. We're not buying your argument. We're not buying your argument. It's just it's bunk.
But more importantly,
They're
Canadians aren't.
I know,
So
but like
that's the thing, right? Is there's no pocket of support for this type of a program, this type of an abuse to the immigration system for all the reasons you've outlined. There's no support because it is hurting our Canadian youth. It is detrimental to the individuals that are coming in under this program for the
yes.
conditions that they're facing. It is detrimental to Canadians at large because it's keeping wages artificially low. And so this is one of those issues they talk about in politics, like these 80-20 issues. I think this is like a 95-5 issue where it's like 95% of the people can see the common sense solution that has been put out here, because it's not a one political persuasion or another that's pushing this. It is a common sense solution
Yeah.
put
But
forward
let's
to
also
address a real problem.
can we talk about one more thing that it didn't come up in the mainstream discourse as much this week,
Hmm.
but productivity. So, for the last several years, there's been a lot of economists and different groups talking about how um, Canadian productivity, that is the output of the economy, has lagged behind peer countries.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that an unlimited supply of indentured, cheap temporary foreign labor might have something to do with that, like of course. So even even sitting around a corporate boardroom or a corporate board table, right? Or if you're looking at strategic planning as a business, um it's a very short-term thinking to just be like, okay, well, let's rely on a deeply unpopular, um, almost inhumane program to keep profits where they're at, right? And instead of looking at long-term productivity changes, that's a strategic failing within corporate strategy as well, too, right? So, like,
Yeah.
I don't apologize. Like, I'm just again like talking to the lobbyists who might be watching this. If you're calling anyone in the Conservative Party, staff, caucus, whatever, like your arguments don't fly. You're gonna have to think about this really hard, right? And I guess I'm gonna say this, Sean. This is my invitation to lobby groups. If any company says that they are ending this practice, they have temporary foreign workers, but they are voluntarily not going to recruit temporary foreign workers anymore, I will celebrate them. We will celebrate them on all of our social media platforms, and we will say, you are doing the right thing, right? That should be the conversation that we're having now. It's like, how, like, if you're a lobbyist and you want to come into my office, it should be like, okay, well, this is what we need for labor mobility strategies or skills training or productivity. Those are the sorts of conversations we should be having. Do not come in and ask me for more temporary foreign workers, and particularly in the middle of a unemployment crisis, because you're going to get this response. It's going to be a "how dare you" response. Because that's the other thing. I'll just finish my rant here. The groups who use these temporary foreign worker programs, the temporary foreign worker programs, they have the capacity and heft to hire expensive lobbyists to lobby the immigration minister, all of her staff, PMO staff, MPs, others, to say they need more temporary foreign workers, to, sponsor Chamber of Commerce events saying we need more temporary foreign worker programs. The people who do not have those advocates are the people who are out of work, who have lost first opportunities, who have had their wages suppressed, who are temporary foreign workers themselves and are being abused. They don't have lobbyists. And the Conservative Party of Canada, like, we're standing up for those people. Those are you and I went around the entire community in the middle of the campaign for months with a piece of lit that said "fighting for you." Well, guess what? We are fighting for our community now.
Yeah.
Giddy up.
Yeah. And I mean, the important point here too is like, I'm a conservative. I'm pro business and pro capitalism in businesses being able to flourish.
Yes.
But this is not the solution to the issues that are facing the labor challenges for Canadian businesses. And I think that's important to be clear too. Is like, we want businesses to be able to hire lots of workers that at good wages, at good paying jobs. And so if there are businesses that are facing real challenges, like, I have no doubt, because the Liberals have created a variety of issues, but this is not the solution to solving
No.
the economic issues that small businesses are facing in our country. This is inherently anti-conservative thought, as far as how we are artificially propping up or keeping down wages, and there's abuse within the program. And so absolutely, conservatives are going to push back hard if lobbyist groups and people are coming saying, well, we need this program. No, what we need is Canadian youth to be able to get these jobs, to be able to start their experience in the workforce, so that they can go on to have successful careers and contribute to the Canadian economy. And there are just no individuals that are actually out and about talking to Canadians that are saying that this isn't a problem. This is a problem, and this is just a really straightforward, common sense solution to solve that. And conservatives are at the front of this, but like I said, there are people from all political stripes that are joining in the message on this, saying, let's get this done and let's address some of the other challenges, because nobody's saying this is a silver bullet either. The
There's a
Liberals
lot
have
of other
made an
things.
absolute mess of the immigration system,
And
and I
there's
know
more to
that's something
come.
you talked about. Is stay tuned, right?
Stay
This
tuned.
isn't the only solution you're going to see.
We've got more announcements coming. In fact, you and I are working all weekend
Yeah.
again, on those announcements, which will be forthcoming shortly. But there's two things that I want to touch on before we close. So I think maybe, there's more things you want to touch on. I want to close on the worst take of the week and unpack that. Exactly what thing I'm thinking about. But before we do that, I just want to quickly note too that some people, like, we've been posting these examples of these jobs that are going to temporary foreign worker programs, and people have been asking, well, why is it $37 an hour for a subway worker, or today we posted Mary Brown's chicken worker. So when Mark Carney, we forgot to talk about Mark Carney's response.
I was going to say, before we get to the worst take, we got to get to his take as well.
Okay, wait. Okay, so before we show his response, let me just finish my thought here. So these jobs that are being paid super high amounts, they're a workaround for there's many streams of the temporary foreign worker program, but there's a low skilled and a high skill, or low paid and high paid stream. Oversimplified, but that's essentially it. It's harder to get government permission for a low wage permit. So what some of these companies will do is they'll post them at these higher wages. And I'm not saying all companies do this, but there's been a lot of stories about abuse where, like, immigration consulting firms or the employers themselves have been charging workers to essentially pay to get the permit to come into Canada. So that kind of evens out the wage. And then the company gets the benefit of what? An indentured laborer, right? Like somebody who can't move around. So it's important to note that because Mark Carney has been kind of using this talking point about like um that they want to focus on higher wage streams. It's like, well, no, actually higher wage streams should be going to Canadians. If there's a skills gap, let's address that. But like, there is no stream that should be going to temporary foreign workers right now. And especially, he's like, Sean, Carney's been out going like, well, buy Canadian, buy Canadian. Okay, all right. But if you support buy Canadian, you should support higher Canadian, right?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
there's no excuse for this. But this is actually the perfect tee up into his response to our announcement on Wednesday, which was absolutely, you and I were dying when we heard this. We could not believe he walked into this response. Let's listen.
Mr. Polyev called this morning on the government to scrap the temporary foreign worker program. Is it time to shut the program down?
Well, I would say the following, which is that that program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role, and it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now, the biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers. It's a variety of other factors. And I will say, je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important.
I'll repeat in French because it's important.
When I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers. Okay.
What did you think of that, boss?
It's a bunch of word
Out of
salad
touch,
that
huh?
doesn't
But he's out of
doesn't actually say anything other than
Oh, I thought it said something.
well
At the end there.
other
He's like,
than nothing is going to change.
well, and also, I've been listening to corporate interests. Well, maybe you should be like, can you imagine how out of touch that is, Sean? Like when I heard this and I saw this, there's that gif of the koala with the leaves hanging out of its mouth. That was literally me. I'm like, I cannot believe that this guy has not read the room. Like there are literally, he would have probably had some sort of sense of what the labor force survey was going to say ahead of time. He would have known that the jobs numbers were going to be bad, and he still came out with that,
They
which
don't
is just,
care.
I
They
know.
do not care about anything that has to do with where jobs are at, where everyday Canadians are at. If they did, they would stop talking and actually start trying
Yes,
to fix the problems that they have
yes,
made. But they are not interested in that. They
no,
talk a big giant game about all the things they were going to do during the election, and it has been months, and we have nothing to show for it other than a bunch of photo ops and a bunch of status quo, steady as she goes. Everything is fine, no problem here. Like you said, the immigration minister, where is she?
where is she?
Where's the labor
Lena,
minister? Where
Lena,
are the jobs ministers out here talking about the youth jobs crisis? I don't think
SOS,
I'm not
Lena,
even sure they're aware that this is
SOS,
going on.
Lena, blink twice if you need help. Where are you? Also, I'm coming. It's like 1 week away. Get ready. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
she can't hide forever. Maybe she
You and
can.
I, we've
Maybe
been
she won't show
prepping.
up.
We've been prepping, for question period, you, me, big shout out to Andrew and the OLO, Aaron, Katie. We're getting ready. I mean, like we've been burning the midnight oil, and like, what do you like? Where is she? Is she like having a spa day or something? Like, oh
Who
my
knows?
God, that's
But
crazy.
the
Like,
absence of urgency, the absence of any sort of plan or even an acknowledgement of the problem speaks volumes to
100%.
the young Canadians who have been unemployed for month after month, putting out resume after resume to business after business and not getting a call back over and over and over again. The silence from the Liberals should dictate how you operate politically going forward. Do not forget that in the midst of a youth jobs crisis, they were
Here,
nowhere to be
nowhere.
found. And
On
then Mark Carney
holidays.
comes out and says, well, I've been talking to business and everything is fine.
Okay, Can we close with the most ridiculous take on this? The absolute worst?
Yeah.
All right. Here's the worst take on our announcement.
Like, I'm going to be quite frank and honest. We are the Conservative Party, and Pierre Poilievre and MP Rempel are treading a very dangerous line of what I'm going to call a dog whistle of racism. Because if you want to have a conversation about the fact that we have an issue with immigration, we do. Not because they're immigrants and they're coming in and taking away. It's because our society and our system hasn't kept up. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough resource put in place to help everybody. So let's have that conversation. But to say it's foreign workers that are taking away jobs from Canadians and the solution is youth, to me is simplistic.
Oh my God, that was literally the stupidest thing. It was literally the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't know who you are, but that was stupid. And if I was on TV with you, I would have laughed at you and called that stupid because you're like, youth isn't the solution. What the hell are you talking about, lady? Of course, Canadian youth are the solution. I'm betting on Canadian kids. And, Pierre and I, when we went out in our press conference, we were very deliberate about saying it's not the fault of workers who want to come to Canada. But just to, she's like, it's dog whistling to talk about this. Okay, well, was the United Nations dog whistling when they likened the temporary foreign worker program to a form of modern day slavery? So the United Nations itself called the program racist. So, like, I don't know, like her comment to me, it was like, it's actually racist to defend the program because it abuses, for the most part, racialized workers from other countries. Like it's like her take was so profoundly stupid. And just she just
Stupid.
debased herself with it. And you know what? People have to have the courage to call takes like this for what they are. I'm not going to be polite because, she came out me and this is what they would do. I knew this. You and I called this. She called me a racist, right? So listen, lady, you're going to call me a racist for wanting to end a program that the United Nations called modern day slavery. I am going to call you out for the most ridiculous, stupid take on this ever had. And the other thing was, Sean, she didn't like actually like she couldn't defend the merits of the program itself.
Right.
It was just the ad hominem attack, right? And I think that she was just utterly dragged everywhere online. I had hundreds of people send this to me and be like from across the political spectrum. And also like, for David Eby to come out and agree with it, like, come on. So I like CTV, do better. Before you're going to put somebody on TV that has a take that it is that ignorant, like maybe screen them or something like that. Cause that was just like,
It was outrageous, but
unbelievable.
yet somewhat predictable
Unbelievable.
because
Unbelievable.
this is what these individuals do.
They
Every
do.
time
Do better.
conservatives want to talk about some sort of issue around the immigration system, which you would be hard pressed to find an everyday Canadian that would say the immigration system has not been utterly just broken by the liberals. And so anytime the conservatives come out, they start throwing out words like racism and racist when there are policy
They're
solutions that are
racist.
being put out here. So it's an
They're
absolutely ridiculous
no,
take.
no, no.
But what was bonkers about this take was, in one breath she's saying, oh, this is some sort of dog whistle that they're walking this dangerous line, and in the other she's outlining all the reasons why we have to be talking about
It was
the
so
immigration
bad.
program and the temporary foreign worker program. She's talking about healthcare and housing and all of these
I
challenges,
was
but saying somehow, oh,
that we should
well,
keep it. We
Canadian
should
youth
keep
don't
the
have anything to
program.
do. There are hundreds of thousands of
Canadian youth
Canadian
aren't the
youth
answer.
right now that are sitting at home that cannot get a job. And so we should absolutely be moving heaven and earth to try and get them employed and get them working, because we need this economy to be doing better. And in order for the economy to
Yeah.
do better, we need Canadians working so they can afford housing. We need to address these problems so that we can have people that can go into a doctor's office or into an emergency room without having to wait hours and hours and hours. So these are challenges that have to be addressed. And to come out and say talking about this is somehow walking some sort of fine line between some sort of racist policy is ridiculous. So
You know
she
what
was
I'm going to
absolutely
say to
dragged.
that woman? outside of everything that I just said, and I would say it again because
Yeah.
we have to start calling out people who are that ignorant with ignorant takes like that.
Yeah.
This is what I would say. Okay, you are literally defending a program that normalizes the existence of a racialized, indentured, low paid, temporary foreign underclass in Canada at the expense of Canadian youth who cannot find Canadian jobs. Who's the racist?
And where's your solution? Where's
Yeah,
your fix to the problem? Because all I hear from Mark Carney is everything's fine. And so it's just ridiculous. And Canadians should ignore and just reject this type of commentary
100%.
when they see it,
Brutal.
be called out and
And
ignored.
really call it out strongly. There was a time where, my instinct would be to sit back on this a little bit, right? Even now, I'm like, ooh, we're going hard on this. But you know what? We got to go hard on this because the people who profit off of takes like hers are the people who benefit off of takes like hers are the people who profit off of the backs of, abused temporary foreign workers and kids who can't find jobs. And they expect us to be quiet on these issues. And we can't be quiet on these issues anymore. So that's why we made this announcement. Like you teased and I teased, there's going to be more to come. I'll close. I think I'll close with this. And maybe if you want to reiterate this comment, Canada's immigration system worked for a really long time, for generations across political stripe. People were let in the right numbers for housing, healthcare, and jobs to keep up, to allow people to integrate into Canada's social and economic fabric, learn the language. But the Liberals in the last 10 years, they upended all of the things that allowed for that really special mix to happen, to allow our pluralism to survive. And we to conserve, the practice of the consensus for Canadian immigration. We have to make some major reforms, and we're going to be doing that. You and I, we and others, we have some big announcements to make in coming days and weeks, and I'm excited for the fall. So yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that's important to highlight. And I think it's important that conservatives and Canadians across the country understand that you do not need to apologize for putting forward solutions,
Bold
for putting forward
solutions.
policy ideas that are going to get our country's
Here,
programs
here.
fixed after 10 years of liberal mismanagement, because the future of an entire generation of Canadian youth is at stake. And so when you are hearing people in the minority view express opinions and push back on this,
Loudly.
do not apologize for putting Canadian kids first, for
Yes.
saying we want our Canadian kids, we want people to be able to succeed in this country. Don't apologize for that. That is a noble undertaking to
Yep.
say we want people to do well in this country. We want them to be able to get jobs, to work hard, to get a home, to be able to have a family. We want the best for our Canadian kids. And so speak up loudly about it, push back loudly about it, and don't apologize for putting forward these types of bold solutions. And don't worry about the fringe voices that have all sorts of ridiculous takes like the one we just heard.
Amen, brother.
There's
Well,
lots of work to do.
there is. So you and I are actually going to get down to work. We've got a lot of prep work to do for the last week before the House sits. The House sits on September 15th. So our episode next weekend will be a wrap up of the announcements we make this week, and a look ahead probably into what the House of Commons session is going to be like. It's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to getting back in the saddle to make the immigration minister show up and answer questions. So for those of you who are following, don't forget to click auto download. Don't forget to click subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and tune back in next week. Working hard for you. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening. If you want even more political news, subscribe at michellerempelgarner.substack.com. And if you like what you hear,